talking about building hot rods here. Not talking about sugarcoating. We're talking about everything. Knuckle busting. The rust in your fucking eyes. We're talking about building fucking hot rods.
Welcome back to episode 2 of It's All About the Build podcast, here with Elliot Slack and Randy Bunting. And this episode is called Why We Build Classic Cars.
And if you can't tell by the name, we're going to dive into why we build classic cars. Not just because, it's amazing, but our thought process to building, why we do it. Why we do it, We broke this down to 3 topics, which we're going to get into. We're going to be talking about, obviously, the biggest topic of them all. We're going to talk about the cool factor of building hot rods. If you live under a rock, you still know that hot rods are fucking cool. So that's number 1. Number 2, for us personally, if you have never built a car or some project of this magnitude, because let's face it, building a car is a massive undertaking that nobody really has a good grasp of what goes on. The topic number 2 we're going to dive into is the sense of accomplishment and customer satisfaction, which all rolls into one. We'll get into that. And the number 3 topic as to why we do it is because of the artistic freedom. And without further ado, we're going to dive straight into the cool factor. Take it away, Randy.
Well, I feel like hot rodding's been cool since it basically first started back in the 30s, wasn't it? And
30s, 40s, yeah.
30s.
Really
30s.
Started taking off in the 50s, maybe?
No, 40s after World War II.
Okay.
Yeah, but technically it kind of started in the 30s when they were breaking these cars down and making them lighter and faster to race across the salts over in California. But it really took off in the 40s after World War II.
Same with ape hangers.
Right, yeah.
Thanks to the war, we got ape hangers.
Was it really?
Yeah, supposedly the ape hanger came from when they were on motorcycles.
Yeah. They
were cruising through and they would have wire across.
Oh,
and the ape hangers were high enough that it would hit that and it wouldn't,
right,
behead you. Supposedly, that's one of the stories.
Wow, I just learned something new. That's crazy. I knew about the wire and everything, but I didn't know about the ape hangers. That's crazy. Okay. Yeah. So that was cool. Those are the cool guys back in the day. They were building stuff from nothing. They were building these, which now is called hot rod. Yeah. And now it's hot rodding. That's why it's cool, because you build cool shit.
Yeah, it's pretty much everything's one off. We're standing in the shop right now. We got a 68 C10 and we got a 67 C10. 2 completely different builds. Completely separate builds. It's the same vehicle. Same exact vehicle.
Came off same assembly line.
Yeah, same assembly line. Yeah. But we're talking about 2 completely different vehicles, even though it's the same make and model, in essence. Mm-hmm. Which is why hot rodding is so big. Just like you can have nothing done to your vehicle and you put wheels on it, the right wheel and tire package, and it changes everything. A little bit of tint.
Something as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, some people would say that's not hot rodding, but...
Right. To me, just moving forward with it, making it unique, is, in my perspective, somewhat of a hot rod.
Slow progress is progress.
Yes, absolutely. But the cool factor, when I was growing up, I knew what a 57 Chevy.
Oh, yeah.
I knew what a 57 Chevy was. First time, I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I know, even if it was a 55 or a 56, I still was like, 57 Chevy in the back seat. Well, actually, back then, I was probably standing on the bench seat in the old fucking Buick my mom had or something,
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I remember that's all I did was try to find cool cars, out driving around.
Matchbox cars. I had Hot Wheels. Lots and lots and lots of Hot Wheels.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I did, which is crazy because I didn't grow up with anybody as far as building cars around me, or the guy down the street with a car, or grandpa.
And it doesn't matter who you are or what you drive. If you see something like that going down the road, you're looking at it and you're in awe because of it. That's cool. That's why it's cool.
That's the cool factor.
Doesn't matter who you are, what you do. If you ever even been inside a classic car, or even owned one, it's just cool no matter who you are or what you do.
Yeah. So getting into these older cars that I've worked on that are stock, the whole world is just straight stock, which it has its place. People, if you like that thing, you like that fucking thing type of deal.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate. I think the coolest part of working on something that's stock like that, it has its own cool factor because especially like the early 20s, late teens, even further back with these, they were just built to work. Mm-hmm. And that's the cool part in my eyes as far as just learning how something worked. Like it didn't matter what the hell they had no fucking EPA to say we can't put this much fuel in or something.
They had no computers.
Yeah. And that was another cool thing about the hot rod world, the early hot rod world. There wasn't YouTube.
Those guys they were just smart. They were just smart and figured shit out and made it better.
Yeah. And then they were picking up chicks. I mean, let's fucking face it.
Yeah.
Back then, they were cruising around town. Like, you still see that.
That was a cool thing to do.
Yeah. But the cool factor, back to the cool factor, what I was going to say about the stock side of things, you drive down the road, so the build that I helped out with was a fucking 1925 Model T, which is a one owner from Alaska. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. It was cool as shit. They left it all stock as far as the outside goes because they knew that Grandpa backed into the fucking woodshed, and that's where that dent came from. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like this scratch was from the ornery nephew that they said stay away from the car, and he smacked it.
And that's another reason why we do what we do is because of the history of these cars to preserve that. Even if you make that a little custom, you're still preserving history.
Yeah, but that driving down the road, even if you're in a 25 Model T, it's still cool. It's still so unique. You know, when you pull up next to at a red light or whatever, people are just staring at you. Mm-hmm. And you have a friend everywhere you go.
Right. And it's almost like you pull into a gas station and you hop out and like people are just...
You're a 5-minute celebrity.
You're a celebrity.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah.
As long as you're there.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is. It truly is.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I ride motorcycle. Mm-hmm. There's just a feeling about it. You get thumbs up when you drive down the road. It's just cool. You got friends in all the low places. Yeah. Especially when you build a car that's to some of the magnitudes that we have, and a part of builds of magnitudes that we've been a part of, Randy, that cool factor goes above and beyond. We were in Ocean City, Maryland one time
that was a good time.
Yeah. At what the hell's the name of that car show?
Cruising Ocean City.
Yeah. So cruising Ocean City, we were there camping, and we were part of an amazing build up there. We had the car on our shirt, on my sweatshirt that I was wearing. And we were out at a bar the night of the car show was 3 days, 4 days, whatever. But it was literally one of the best cars there. I mean, we won People's Choice Award. We didn't win, I don't know if we were allowed to win more than one award. I don't fucking know, but they had People's Choice Award and we won it. So if that tells you anything, the people are cooler than the judges. But
usually.
Yeah. The guy was buying us beers when they saw that we were wearing those shirts with the car on our back. Plus, remember the guy offered me $75 on the spot for my sweatshirt. Like, no. I should have took him up fucking on the offer because, I don't even think I have that sweatshirt anymore.
But you basically were like celebrities that night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We were getting beers bought for us just because we helped build a car,
You've never been on TV, never been on a cover of Hot Rod magazine or whatever.
We were actually finally getting recognition for being part of a build.
Right.
Instead of the owner of the shop saying, my name's on the side of the building and I'm the one to build it, That's the one thing you don't get a lot of recognition whenever you work for somebody, but that's a whole nother fucking podcast. We're all about the cool factor right now, and I can't describe any more than that. When you go to a bar and you're sitting there bullshitting, if you go anywhere and you're bullshitting with anybody and you tell them that, yeah, I'm an accountant, pretty much your conversation's over. It's moving on to, who's playing Monday Night Football or whatever. But if you go to a show, or if you're at a bar or anywhere, and you say that you build fucking hot rods,
then you start going down a rabbit hole and, I've owned this, I've owned that.
Yeah, or I got this, or I got that.
Yeah.
Or my grandpa has this. Mm-hmm. People work 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to come home and do what we do Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely grateful to have the opportunity to do this for a living.
In my opinion, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, I've seen a lot of people build cars in their backyard that are far more superior than some of the places I've had the opportunity to work for. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've pretty much beat up the cool factor here.
And that's why we build these classic cars. Those guys back in the day, they were badass and, and they made a certain base of hot rodding, and we're continuing that tradition but in a more modern sense.
Yeah.
There's so much more coolness being made,
Yeah.
especially nowadays.
Well, you take the concept of them hot rodding back in the day, and you have new engines and new transmissions.
Yeah.
And
So much more you can do with it.
yeah, new cool shit. Electrical, just electronics in general is just ridiculous.
We get to truly re-engineer these cars now.
I've told people that I should just put on my resume re-engineer.
Right.
Because that's what we do. Even whenever we're cutting and replacing shit, you still have to have some sort of idea of, like, if you're replacing a floor pan, you still have to have an idea of how the fuck it came apart and how it's going back on. Mm-hmm. It's not just, people just think you're cutting a quarter off and putting a quarter on. You're cutting a fucking floor pan out and you're putting a floor pan in. And you could be down the rabbit hole of, I have to make my own floor pans because it's not being bought out of a box or out of a catalog. Yeah. And that's where then there's another cool factor. Making the shit by hand. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Which, making shit by hand, I mean, that goes into like a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like you built this with your bare hands, and it's now something that will work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But that brings us directly into the second topic we wanted to talk about here on this episode, was the sense of accomplishment. Like Randy said, there is nowhere else that you could be building metal shaping, welding, fabrication, electrical, stitch work, design work. There's just so much goes into a car, especially on the custom side. The sense of accomplishment and the customer satisfaction that goes with the sense of accomplishment. Like, when you're finally finished with a build.
Yeah, it's one and the same.
And you see a grown-ass man cry over a car.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. That's why one of the reasons why we do it.
Yeah. I'd have to say the crazy part is, though, we spend so much time on these cars. I mean, upwards of years. And yeah, the customer paid for it, the customer owns it and all that stuff, but that's my car.
If you're an owner, don't take offense to that. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I express that with the owners themselves whenever I talk to them about what we're doing. Like, yeah, I mean, you've literally, for a lack of better term, you molest every single nook and cranny and corner of that vehicle.
You get to know the full, everything of every inch of that car.
Yeah. You know exactly, okay, if a fuse blows, you know exactly what blew.
Yeah.
You know exactly what bushings you used. Mm-hmm. You know exactly how the rear end works because you re-engineered it. You know everything about it. And the crazy part is we spend all these hours and possibly years on these vehicles, and as soon as they're done, they're gone.
If you did your job right.
Well, yeah, if you did your job right. But I'm saying that sense of accomplishment that you chase is gone. Mm-hmm. You might have it for a week or two,
It only exists in our memories.
Yeah, right. But that's where it goes, man. And that's one of the crazy parts is you spend all this time and effort on something, and it's gone and you never see it again.
Yep.
And if you do it right, you never fucking hear from them again because it's working and operating properly. You might get a text message or something a couple weeks later and they tell you how great it is, but you just don't see it again because you did your job right.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. I worked on a Willys Jeepster that this guy could never drive it without it overheating or whatever. And he brought it all the way down here from Michigan, which was a healthy drive, 4 hours, whatever the hell it is, 4.5. And got it running, did everything I needed to it, sent it back. And this dude, he didn't have to, but a couple weeks later, he messages me and he's like, we took it out for a ride. It's doing fantastic. Didn't overheat all this shit. And then I think he sent me another message that said, this thing's fucking amazing. And I'm friends with him on Facebook now. And like, he's driving a piss out of it. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I still get the sense of accomplishment, even though I didn't build that whole car or anything, but just being able to help him out.
You got good feedback.
Yeah.
You just keep getting good feedback.
Yeah. But I mean, that's not only is the sense of accomplishment for, like, it's one thing to build a car and show it, win awards and all that stuff, but it's a completely different ball game whenever you build a car and the thing actually fucking works. It's not just putting lipstick on a fucking pig. Mm-hmm. You're not just painting it. We're going to paint this thing, and the guy's never going to drive it. He's going to drive it one time in a parade every year, and he's going to put it in his personal collection, and it don't matter if it fucking works. Just get a paycheck from the guy and move on to the next. That's not what I'm about.
That's not satisfaction.
No. That's why we do what we do. It's why I.B.F.HotRods as a whole was made, because it's not about making, like, yeah, fuck, you make money, okay? Everybody has to make money. We got a mortgage payment, need to keep the lights on.
But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's all we care about, just keeping the lights on,
Yeah.
Paying our bills.
Yeah, but I just never understood the concept with people, why they just in and out and not spend the extra 2 minutes to make it work properly. And that's where the sense of accomplishment comes from. Like, making something work that it didn't work before is amazing, and working on stuff that nobody knows about because they only made so many of them, and this carburetor was only put on this amount of cars, or like the C10 that we have in here right now. It's got a Cadillac CTS-V supercharged LSA with the transmission that came with it, and it only has the extension housing on the transmission. Only came on 4 years of a car, and we got to make that shit work.
Yeah.
And to come back and fabricate something and engineer something to where you didn't remove the housing, but you were able to use a different, more GM platform, more user-friendly platform. It's that's the sense of accomplishment. That's amazing. This Riviera we're standing here staring at, there's fucking rust everywhere, and we got to build everything. And then this C10 over here, I mean, this came, I'm not going to say a basket case, but it was just there's so many loose ends that was just never finished off. And some of the stuff that was done already in previous shops wasn't done up to our spec. So figuring out where somebody stopped and making it work, there's a sense of accomplishment.
It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it is. Because you've been on this thing. It is a treasure hunt.
Yeah, you really never know what you're going to find. And when you do find it, you fix it.
Yeah.
And when you fix it, you feel good about it because you know it's fixed.
Fucking fixed right.
And it's fixed right.
That's right. So that pretty much take us right into the artistic freedom of it. Whenever we get these vehicles in here, this third topic, and we want to talk about the artistic freedom of a build.
This isn't just black and white.
No.
They're layers, people. Layers.
Like a fucking onion. Like you said, it's not black and white. There's not one direction. There's not one road to the finish line. If
you were going to make, let's say, an engine cover, there's not one way to do that. There's an infinite amount of ways you can go about shaping that. How many designs you can think of?
Yeah. Well, not only that, you got 55 different ways to go about just doing it from the start. You can get out some cardboard. You could cardstock.
Freehand it. You could cardstock.
You could get out dial rod and just start tacking shit together.
Yeah.
And then as far as the metal shaping goes, we have all this shit: English wheels, bead rollers.
Well, then you get into
fucking brakes.
You get into
finishing hammer,
3D scanning, and getting everything. Getting something machined.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you could go about it.
Well, that's cool thing is it evolves as well. Like when you're building something, you're kind of winging it, I guess. Best way to describe it. When you build something or something happens or something was built a certain way that it needs a beauty ring, or it needs, when I say beauty ring, I hope you know what I'm talking about as far as a beauty ring goes, as far as the listener goes. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But a beauty ring is like, okay, let's just say a headlight. If you just put a headlight in these old 40s fucking cars, and it's at the front of the fender, and you got a headlight in there, if you didn't put a beauty ring around it, a trim piece, basically, it's going to look like shit. So many areas in a build, you beautify the fucking thing, basically.
Yeah, you finish it off.
Yeah, that's where the artistic freedom comes in. Like when we do vintage airlines or AC lines, in case you're not sure what vintage air is. When you do radiator lines and AC lines, adding a little bit of flair to them turns them from just rubber lines. They can still be just the rubber lines, but you just add a little bit of flair. You can add, a fucking 50-cent, what am I thinking of?
Clamp?
Yeah, 50-cent clamp. It's got a little bit of rubber and a little bit of metal showing. Clamp it together, and all of a sudden it goes from the normal, boring, just whatever jewelry box under the hood to it looks cool.
Yeah, and it gives it extra something for whoever's looking inside your engine bay to look at too.
Yeah,
it's not just there's some hoses.
Yeah, no, there's hoses, but look, it looks cool.
And
that's neat.
And they put some thought into that.
Yeah, that's just the same thing with wiring.
Yeah.
Everybody overlooks wiring. Like when you pop a hood, like even like watching TV and somebody pops the hood on a car or a truck and there's like this big red bastard just hanging out and it runs from one side to the other. What are you doing? Fucking hide it. Wrap it up with something, man. Jesus. But that's another thing. The wiring drives me crazy. Like, I have nightmares over the wiring that I've seen. And people overlook it so much. And I think this artistic freedom we're talking about, I think we should have named it Extra 5 Minutes.
Yeah, right.
Because the artistic freedom that we're talking about.
Well, sometimes it takes more than a little bit, 5 minutes.
Right. But it's that extra 5 minutes is the artistic freedom that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, even whenever we have stock shit, not stock shit, but even when we come in with purchased parts that are already made, and we're just putting them on a vehicle, we can just put them on a vehicle, or we can take 5 minutes or an artistic vision and make it clean. And that's what fucking hot rodding is. Like, when I'm thinking about hot rodding, I'm not thinking about dicking around. I'm not thinking about jerry-rigging something or just throwing shit together. I'm talking about, like, hot rodding to me is that extra 5 fucking minutes. And that's when awards start happening. You know what I mean? If that's if that's your bag. You know what I mean? Like, that's the artistic freedom and the sense of accomplishment and the cool factor all in one right there. It's
trifecta.
It is, yes. It's a domino effect. You put all this shit into it, and that's where it gets, man. It's where it gets me fired up. Gets me fired up. I should be drinking a beer right now, because now I'm getting fired up. But that's
way ahead of you, good buddy.
But that's what we wanted to get at here. Do you want to elaborate on the artistic freedom side of things here, Randy? Or
yeah, from bumper to bumper, you can have artistic freedom with anything that has to do with the car or bike or whatever you're working on. When it comes to where you're drilling the hole for a switch, or laying the carpet a certain way, or routing brake lines, that's a big one. Routing brake lines.
Mm-hmm. Seen some horrible brake lines in my day.
Yeah. Making connections for lights that instead of just hardwiring everything, so you can take it apart and service it if you need to.
And that stuff's easy.
It's easier than what people think.
Yeah,
and that's the extra little bit extra time to do it makes it worth it in the end, because you're just saving yourself a headache down the road.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like, everything that we do not only is for the cool factor, obviously, but everything we do is has a thought behind it. It's not just to throw it on there and call it a day. Like, I worked for so many people that they were all about just get it on there and move on down the line. And a lot of that spans down from the communication factor from when they first got the damn thing in the shop. They can't put the extra 5 minutes into it to make it that much more efficient, which makes it that much more cooler.
Yeah, and these aren't just lunchboxes driving down the road you see every day. This, unknowingly, these people, they built these rolling works of art. Sometimes your artwork needs, help here and there, and a little bit of refinement here and there, but that's why it's so cool, and that's why business is so big, because those guys back in the day got it right in the shape of these vehicles. And the good thing is that they laid a nice foundation for us hot rodders who get to, create and make things, work and, kind of mesh together with their creation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, following you.
Yeah.
Gets me fucking excited. Oh, man, we didn't even, artistic freedom, we haven't even talked about painting.
Oh, I was going to get into that.
We haven't even talked about painting yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, and yeah, you get into the painting it.
Well, before the paint, the body work.
Oh, yeah.
We're not talking about metal work, we're talking about the mud.
Yeah.
People are like, oh my God, if you do it right, there shouldn't be any mud on it. It's like, you gotta, come on. These parts aren't stamped the fuck out. Perfect.
Right.
We're handcrafting this stuff.
Oh,
Unless you want me to spend 4.5 weeks on a panel to make it absolutely perfect.
I mean, and you can do that. We can do that. But at the same time, we're not doing no 1/4 inch, 3/8.
Fuck no.
I've seen thicker.
Yeah, I've chiseled out thicker. But just a tiny little bit of slick. There's an artistic ability for the sanding part. Yeah, you can put mud on something, or let's not even say mud. That way we don't get any fucking panties in a bunch. Let's just say high build primer. How about that? Let's just say some high build primer. To get it to that point and smooth, so where you're looking down the side of the car, or when it drives by, it's not waving at you like that Cadillac I saw yesterday going down the road. Mm-hmm. past this beautiful Cadillac yesterday.
You know, it's amazing how much I see that too.
Well, it's hard not to when it looks like a fucking 5-year-old in the back seat waving at you.
Hey, I'm over here.
Yeah, I see you. I'm just going to keep going. Jesus. But yeah, like when you go to car shows, and if you don't have an idea of what you're looking at, to get body work to be that straight. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's a lot to the paint and all that stuff, but that's the icing on the cake. Like, if the foundation isn't there, it's just like doing drywall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just like doing drywall on a wall. For those of you that know anything about drywall, fucking dusty. That's the same thing. It's dustier and shit. But if you got a ripple in it, if you can feel a ripple in it, you're going to see a ripple in it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, guess what? It's going to be fucking straight. Now, there are some painters out there that can cover up some shitty fucking stuff.
With clear.
Bury it in clear, or they put a little bit of highlight here and there. They come in with an airbrush and they throw down a little bit of shade here and there, and it'll do what you want it to do.
Hey, but good on them. That's artistic freedom right there.
Yeah, right. I mean, but the thing of it, I mean, that there in and of itself is a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Let's face it, there's shops out there where there's body guys that do nothing but body work. And then there's a painter that does nothing but painting. And there's a guy who metal shapes that does nothing but metal shaping.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, who knows how many people that are working as a tandem to get that thing squared up and all that shit. So you want to talk about a sense of accomplishment when you actually built the whole car?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
It gets me fired up.
That's why we build classic cars.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's the sense of, I mean, that, whoo, yeah. So we beat this dead horse long enough.
That poor horse.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, that's why we build classic cars. Everything we just explained.
Yeah.
You know, the cool factor, being accomplished with everything that you do, and the freedom of getting to do what we do.
Yeah.
Not just a 9-to-5 job. As a partner kind of thing, you know, we get to kind of work our own hours, but, you know, at the same time, we got to get the job done. So,
yeah.
But that kind of freedom in what we do is awesome.
Yeah, this industry's interesting whenever you start, the tree branch goes and it starts taking you into a different avenue.
Oh, there's so many different outlooks people can find.
The client relationship, that's another thing that is amazing because the artistic freedom shows up through the client that you didn't even know needed to be done. Mm-hmm. They have an idea or they have something that once done one way and now you have to make it work that way. So that sense of accomplishment, making something that somebody wanted or any of that stuff
became a reality.
Yeah, it became a reality. That's, you know, that like I said, it all ties together. But these topics, the cool factor, the sense of accomplishment and customer satisfaction, and this artistic freedom is what we really wanted to hit home and give you guys a little bit of a better understanding of what the hell, why we do what we do and why we love to do it.
Why we love to do it, yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping that through this podcast here, I'm hoping that you guys got an idea of why we do what we do. And hopefully it got you guys fired up. I'm hoping our perspective and our thoughts will give you guys thoughts and perspective that you've never heard before. You know, instead of just, this is a 9-to-5 or this is why we fucking do it.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to see what we do, you know, we have other avenues that you can deep dive into.
Yeah, which I guess now is a good time to
cue the outro.
That's right, cue the outro. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, like always, here's to you. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of It's All About the Build podcast. Please comment and let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel to follow along, and if you haven't already, check out our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok to keep up with what we have going on every week. Thank you all for listening.